How you doing, everybody? Well, I just got something in today. It is a new book. Haven't opened it yet. This is Infinity Outrage, and this is a manga which is connected to the miniature game of Infinity by the company Corvus Belli. It's a miniature game of science fiction skirmishing. Here's one of the box sets here. This is the combined starter pack. I basically got it just for this guy right here alone. The others are nice, but just that alone is a miniature I got. Another example here, Domaru Butai. And then of course I got several of the blister packs here. I'm in the midst of painting these, but I got noticed this in the gaming store in Oklahoma City. I haven't opened it yet. I'm going to do so right now because this also comes with an exclusive miniature with it. So if anything, if I don't like the manga, at least it got a cool miniature out of it. So let's see what we got here. Let's cut this open. Alright. Alright. How's this? Okay. Let's see how this opens up. Oh, let's see. Supposed to break that seal, or no? It just slides out, I think. Yeah, it just slides up here like certain movies you buy. Oh yeah, it just flips over the top. Okay, I could go with that. Oops, not gonna get the camera there. Okay, so let me adjust here. This is the miniature himself. Looks like it comes in 3 pieces. I gotta. Okay, yeah. He's got his sniper rifle, and he's got upper half and a lower half. So I gotta make some trimmings. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I see how he goes. Alright, he hooks his sniper rifle over the elbow somewhere. I gotta trim it down before I do anything with it, but yeah. Oh yeah, it connects right here. If I have a critique about Corvus Belli, is that their miniatures tend to have a lot of flash, a lot of trimming that needs to be done. So I'll work with him later. I'll be one of the last miniatures I got over the summer. I got over 20 of these, 25 actual, and including this guy. But anyway, let's take a look at the manga itself. Alright. So the larger size manga, yeah. It must be typical manga fare. I hope the story is decent. And for the record, I'm not a huge manga guy. I only have about 2 titles currently on my walls. That's Berserk and Lone Wolf and Cub. And there's a few volumes of Samurai Executioner, which is a spin-off of that. So there you go. I'll probably read to this and I'll probably give a review, tell you what all I think. So there you go. We'll get back to you in a bit. Okay, so I finished reading the manga and I put together my miniature. And with this book is a promotion of the miniature game Infinity by the company Corvus Belli, which is based in Spain. And despite the fact that this is a manga, not true manga, and in fact, if you consider true mangas to be a strictly made by Japanese, this is definitely read from traditional, from left to right instead of right to left. You don't start at the back. You start, how Western books are. And it's called manga in the fact that it's drawn in the manga style. Now, before I get to the review itself, I'll tell you about my selection of mangas. It's just very little. I have very little a selection of mangas. I have the Nausicaa series, the 2-book collection by Hayao Miyazaki, famous for his Studio Ghibli films. I have all up to the current number of Berserk, And I have the entire collection of Lone Wolf and Cub, and a few of the books of Samurai Execution. And I think I have the first volume of the new Lone Wolf and Cub. And I didn't collect any more because the bookstores in my current town aren't constantly getting the new stuff. Now, even though this is not manga, I have all the current books of Vampire Hunter D, except for the newest one up to the point of this video, and that's in the mail right now. But I like the idea that people are exposed to, you know, the manga and anime that came about, but when it started becoming really big back in the early 2000s, it was really hard for me to get into new titles. I grew up back in the 80s, mind you, and, you know, so the anime I was exposed from, which is funny, because every time I mention I like the old school animes, it's like, and people with me, and I've had so many people like, oh, you like Dragon Ball? I was like, no, I was never into Dragon Ball. No. Just, no. Never got into that series. I'm glad I didn't. And, I grew up with Voltron. Okay, sounds a bit more pathetic, but, you know, when you're a kid below the age of 10, you know, you'd be surprised how low your standards are. Just reach back in your when you turn 30 years old, look back at what you did before the age of 10 and what all you like, you realize is like, wow, I understand why my parents never got into this. But you know, I still enjoy what I did. Grew up with Voltron, and I saw Robotech toys advertised on television, but I never got to watch any of the series until the 90s. You know, the Sci-Fi Channel actually produced some of the cartoons back on Saturday mornings, and Cartoon Network was showing the old Macross series, you know, Battletech, so I was really enjoying that. I grew up with some of the movies, but I never been a hardcore anime geek. I just, you know, I couldn't just like anime just because it was anime and everything about it was good. No. I can look on the shelves. I go to Barnes & Noble or books or any other bookstore, and looking at the shelves that are manga, I look upon it and nothing really catches my eye. I mean, maybe one of these days I would like to read the entire series of Akira, you know, where we're all famous with that anime. But I cannot just look upon this as like, wow, you know, everyone's into this. Especially, it doesn't help that you have all the numbers of books involved in these. I'm already heavily invested in Berserk. I'm waiting for the new one. I think Dark Horse has announced that it's coming out. The newest one will be coming out later this year. It's been about 3 years, but always top notch when it comes out. So that being said about how I personally am about manga and anime in general, let's talk about this. Now, this, let's see, the guys who did this, Victor Santos and Kenny Ruiz. Let's see, Victor Santos' varied career as an author and illustrator in the European and American markets include the series Witch and Wizard, The Mice Templar, Marvel Access, and the graphic novel Filthy Rich. His graphic novel trilogy Polar, published by Dark Horse Comics, was nominated for the prestigious American Harvey Award, and is currently being adapted for the big screen by Constantin Films. Kenny Ruiz, among his many projects, after working for Disney as an illustrator, the following stand out: El Cazador de Reyes, I think I've heard about that one. You know, Barcelona, Le Mystère Nemo for the French editorial Del Corte, Malefic, Psalm, a manga that explores Luis Reyes' Malefic universe, and Dos Espandas as an awarded young adult manga. Okay, I'm sorry if I messed up some of those names, but, you know, again, these aren't Japanese guys. But they're taking the manga format, and they're taking Corvus Belli's Infinity and adopting it into its first extended universe in this form. Now, with that, this book can serve not only just, you know, as for serving as a first story, it can help players who already like the series enjoy the story that sets in this world. I doubt it'll go the other way around. I doubt this book will stand out to where, unless these people are just being experimental, they get into this book and they go, oh, I want to play the miniature game. It's not impossible, but I don't know if it's going to work that way. You have to already be interested in such things to begin with. Otherwise, it could just be a simple sci-fi story about that. And I think, and if I wanted to generalize this book, it is a very simple sci-fi story that takes place in the world of Infinity. I think most of it is done very well. Not the greatest thing that ever was. I mean, and it's a good thing too. That's not trying to strive for that. It is a book where this character, Knauf, who you get the miniature of in this limited edition, Knauf is a retired sniper for the faction Pan-Oceania, which is the largest faction you can play an army of in the game Infinity, and he's being recruited by this Pan-Oceania spy who's assembling a team to go after these group of I guess you could say smugglers. They're doing some illegal trading. They have made connections to the Yuqing, another faction that's all centralized China, around China and surrounding Asian countries. And of course, they trying to stop this trade from happening. And then so they go to they go and battle them off. Knauf is a expert sniper, and one of the things he's this is not going to focus. I don't have autofocus on this camera. It tends to stick where it is, but I'll show you a picture at the end of this video. Knauf is very good at what he does, so they need him a sniper. But he also got in the group they got a mech driver named Bebe. They got a hacker. They got a couple of heavy hitters. One's a ninja. One's a heavy shooter who could turn into a giant wolf-like creature. And that makes sense in the context of the game. Despite the fact that this is a Spanish, produced game, you can look at the artwork and see a lot of the Japanese-style art, manga, and anime in the drawings, in the books. Not so much in the miniatures themselves, although, but okay, I would say there's a lot of them you can do that with. I'd take that back. But it's not all straight anime and manga look. It's kind of toned back a bit towards its own thing. But going back to the story, okay, so they're going to attack these guys, and then things go sour because as a covert operation, Pan-Oceania will not accept that, will not make claim to what they did, and the enemy has identified some of the people who died in this battle, and they. So they were kind of stuck in the middle of all this, so they have to hide while trying to go after us. But going back to Knauf, the sniper, they hired him specifically because there's this other sniper named Jethro, I believe. But the thing is, this guy's a little paranoid, very good at what he can do. And then Knauf confronts him face to face during the first battle. And then he starts to see the connection between the two. How are they? What is their relationship, to each other? How does this affect them? How are they going to resolve this? I don't want to give too much details of it, and so this is going to lead to a final battle, between the two. I think for the most part, this is a decent read. Again, I'm speaking as someone who's not a heavy manga reader, but I can't say. Even trying going through it a second time around with the parts, I did find it clunky from the setup from the Act 2 to Act 3 finale. Because you see setups from both parts, but you don't see from the protagonists, we got to do this and this. I mean, you understand the end why they did that, but they never discussed it before that, okay, we have to do this and this. And so we could be at this setting. It felt kind of clunky from that act to the final. The first part, where the first act up to the end to the battle, was a great example of that you can match your Infinity tabletop game. You have a handful of people, 5 or 6 people on one side, and you have the other side with their troops, and got the terrain. It's a great way of introducing people and what a game of Infinity can be like. Good for immersion. And the fact that if you go to the website, the Infinity Game website, you go to click on the army section where you can build your own your army list. They do have this character to play. his stats and everything. So it's a great way for Infinity players to get into the story, get in the mood, and play a game. Now, unlike other miniature games like Warhammer, well, the old Warhammer before he went to the Age of Sigmar, where you need vast amounts of miniatures, hundreds of them, just sort of big epic battle, or games like that. This one is mostly, you have a handful of miniatures, and so does the other player, and you do get out sort of mostly a small-tail skirmish type game. I have over almost 30 miniatures right now, get ready to paint. I got 4 down, I got about 25 to go. So yeah, nearly 30. And that's, he just added 1 more to it. I'll probably paint him near last. So I'll get to him and I'll make a video on that. But I'm digressing. So about the, things like this, where you try to make expanded universes out of gaming franchises. I'm glad they didn't take the route of starting off with larger-than-life characters playing in this world, where you read this world and they're going to do this huge universe-changing event. This is a single one-off story. They may continue with more with him if they decide to, but they can also say, that's his story and that's the end of his. We can move on to other things. It's a good example, it's just a good way to introduce players to, what a game Infinity can, aspire to be. It doesn't go, as I say, it doesn't go large scale. So, it's very much down. I mean, whether win or fail, the universe still spins, life goes on type of thing. But these are events of their story, particularly of Knauf the sniper, and, and what his, why he left, and how he's connected to this one enemy sniper, and what's he going to do about it. It's a simple story straight through, and I kind of like that for this. I mean, I've read too many expanding universe from Dragonlance. Forgotten Realms kind of goes back and forth depending on which series you read, but there's a lot where they try to, always include the main characters. And I think if you go through that, you have no reason to play your own games, because, the main big hero ones are the ones driving everything. So what's there to inspire to? Shadowrun, back in the old days, I know had a series of trilogies, but I think in the end, they're not changing the world or all that. Just a trilogy of books, or a series of books where you just read about the adventures of this group. Mostly Shadowrun, I think the novels I see on the shelves look like they're mostly one-off stories involving people in this world, and I think that's a smarter move when you're trying to promote a game with these books. So there you go. Outrage. Infinity Outrage, there's a limited edition that comes with a miniature. I'm sure that will not last forever, just due to the fact that it says limited. But if you like a little souvenir, or you're into miniatures, it's a very nice looking sniper model. Definitely won't go with my army. I think he goes with Pan-Oceania. But I do collect miniatures because they're cool, and I think he's pretty cool. So there you go. But if you just want the manga, I'm sure you could pick this one up. And later on, if you're not interested in miniature, they may have a regular edition that's just a book by itself. So there you go. Infinity Outrage. Thank you all for watching. You have a nice day.